People usually start believing in conspiracy theories when patterns repeat too many times. 1. Unusual casting choice. Nobody cares. 2. Still normal. But after years of seeing the same actor appear in emotionally dark roles, morally conflicted men, psychologically wounded characters, while rarely becoming the glorified historical hero at the center of nationalist epics, questions begin to grow. And eventually, some fans started asking something much bigger about Seçkin Özdemir. Is the Turkish entertainment industry quietly limiting him? At first, this sounds extreme. Maybe even irrational. But things didn't stay that simple. Because once audiences begin noticing repeated patterns, they start searching for explanations. And in entertainment industries, explanations quickly become theories. Especially when identity, history, nationalism, and historical dramas all collide together. Soon another idea started circulating among parts of the audience. A sensitive one. The suggestion that claims about Seçkin Özdemir's maternal Greek background may have influenced how certain producers, networks, or historical productions perceived him. Particularly regarding heroic Ottoman-style roles. And suddenly the conversation became much larger than one actor. Because now the discussion was no longer just about casting. It became about identity, belonging, symbolism, national image, and the hidden psychology behind historical storytelling. But before going further, something extremely important must be said clearly. There is no verified evidence of an organized conspiracy against Seçkin Özdemir. None. No confirmed blacklist. No proven discrimination campaign. No documented industry plot. That distinction matters, because perception and proof are not the same thing. And this is where the conversation becomes more interesting than the conspiracy itself. Because even without evidence, the existence of the theory reveals something powerful about how audiences interpret entertainment. Especially in countries where historical dramas carry emotional and national significance. At the beginning, many people outside Turkey misunderstand what historical dramas actually are. They think they are just television, just costumes, just swords and palaces. But in Turkey, historical productions often operate like cultural mythology. Especially series connected to Ottoman history, Seljuk history, military victories, religious symbolism, national identity. These shows are not consumed neutrally. They are emotionally charged, sometimes politically charged, sometimes ideologically charged, and because of that, casting decisions inside these projects can trigger unusually strong public reactions. Much stronger than normal romantic dramas or urban series. Because in these productions, actors do not only play characters. They symbolically represent identity, heroism, loyalty, civilization, power, and this creates a very specific storytelling structure. One side protects the nation. The other side threatens it. One side symbolizes belonging. The other symbolizes danger, betrayal, or foreignness. This pattern exists everywhere, not only in Turkey. Hollywood does it. Russian cinema does it. Chinese productions do it. Historical storytelling naturally simplifies emotional sides into symbolic categories. And once an actor repeatedly appears inside certain archetypes, audience perception begins hardening around them. That's where things became complicated for Seçkin Özdemir. Because over time, his screen image developed in a very particular direction. Not loud nationalism, not explosive heroic dominance, not aggressive patriotic symbolism. Instead, his energy often felt controlled, intense, psychologically layered, emotionally restrained, mysterious, sometimes melancholic, and these qualities naturally fit a completely different category of characters. Conflicted men, anti-heroes, emotionally damaged figures, morally gray personalities, men carrying internal darkness. What most people don't notice is that entertainment industries heavily depend on emotional archetypes. Far more than audiences realize. Directors repeatedly cast actors based on emotional aura. Not only talent, aura. Some actors project safety, others project authority, others project danger, others project emotional instability. And once the industry emotionally categorizes an actor, the cycle becomes self-reinforcing. Role creates perception. Perception influences future casting. Future casting strengthens the perception. Again and again, until eventually the audience starts saying, "This actor feels like this type of character." And suddenly what looked like conspiracy may actually be typecasting. Which is very different. But the real problem wasn't only typecasting. It was the collision between typecasting and nationalist historical storytelling. Because nationalist historical dramas usually prefer very specific heroic energies. Visible certainty, clear authority, unambiguous patriotism. strong external charisma, emotionally dominant masculine presence, and Seçkin Özdemir's screen energy often operates differently. More internal, more psychological, more elegant than aggressive, more emotionally wounded than triumphant. That distinction matters enormously in casting psychology, especially for historical epics. And this is where many conspiracy theories begin misunderstanding artistic dynamics as political exclusion. Because audiences often interpret repeated patterns emotionally instead of structurally. If a talented actor repeatedly misses certain roles, fans instinctively search for hidden explanations. Nepotism, politics, ideology, ethnicity, industry favoritism. This happens globally. Fans rarely accept randomness. They prefer narrative, because narrative feels emotionally satisfying. And social media amplifies this process dramatically. A single theory spreads faster than a balanced explanation, especially when the theory involves identity, nationalism, hidden politics, industry power. Those subjects generate emotional engagement instantly. Algorithms love emotionally charged speculation. And once speculation gains momentum online, it begins feeling true even without evidence. But soon another issue appeared. The confusion between villain and complex character. Because modern television no longer works like older storytelling systems. Today many writers intentionally prefer morally complicated characters. Characters with contradictions, trauma, ambiguity, internal conflict, and actors often actively seek these roles because they offer stronger artistic depth. A pure heroic nationalist character can sometimes become predictable, one-dimensional, emotionally repetitive. Meanwhile psychologically layered characters allow broader acting range. And Seçkin Özdemir's strongest performances often emerged precisely inside those emotionally complicated spaces. Which may explain certain casting directions far more realistically than theories about hidden exclusion. But historical dramas still complicate everything. Because those productions operate differently from normal television, they carry symbolic risk, and producers inside high-budget historical series often become extremely cautious. Not necessarily discriminatory. Cautious. There's a difference. They tend to select actors perceived as universally safe for nationalist audiences, especially in politically sensitive productions. This isn't always about ethnicity. Sometimes it's about avoiding controversy altogether. Even potential controversy, because historical dramas attract emotionally reactive audiences. And producers fear backlash more than artistic experimentation. That fear influences casting psychology heavily, even subconsciously. But again, subconscious industry caution is not the same thing as organized conspiracy. That distinction matters a lot, because entertainment industries are usually driven less by secret ethnic agendas, and far more by commercial calculations. Ratings, audience reaction, marketability, risk management, producer preference. These factors dominate most decisions, not hidden coordinated plots. And this is where the conversation becomes more balanced. Maybe the better question is not, is the industry conspiring against Seçkin Özdemir? Maybe the more realistic question is, has the industry underutilized him? That's a very different discussion. And honestly, a much stronger one. Because many fans genuinely believe his range could support bigger projects, bolder roles, more ambitious productions, possibly stronger international positioning, and international expansion changes the entire equation. Because outside Turkey, audiences usually care far less about ethnic speculation. They respond differently. They focus more on charisma, performance, screen presence, emotional connection, not symbolic nationalist positioning, which may ultimately become extremely important for Seçkin Özdemir in the long term. Because global streaming platforms increasingly weaken local narrative limitations, international audiences don't always consume actors through the same political or historical filters. And that creates new opportunities, especially for actors with psychologically layered screen energy, which is actually one of Seçkin Özdemir's strongest traits. So in the end, what's the real answer? Is there verified proof that the Turkish entertainment industry conspires against Seçkin Özdemir because of alleged Greek family roots? No, there is no confirmed evidence supporting that claim. But the discussion itself still reveals important truths about entertainment systems. Because typecasting is real. Historical dramas carry nationalist symbolism, audience perception influences casting narratives, and actors often become trapped inside emotional archetypes. All of these forces can combine together and create patterns that audiences interpret politically, even when the underlying reality is more structural than conspiratorial. And maybe that's the most important distinction of all. Because in entertainment, perception can become stronger than facts. But perception still does not automatically become proof. And the future of Seçkin Özdemir will probably depend far less on conspiracy theories, and far more on whether future projects fully unlock the depth, complexity, and international potential that many viewers already believe he has.